During a demolition job, the crew misjudges the fall direction, and the structure collapses straight onto a high-tension power line. The impact causes an instant short circuit, sparks flashes, and the whole line blowing out. A perfect example of why fall paths and utility hazards must always be cleared before the first hit. A horrific accident erupted into a wall of flames within seconds. The collision was so forceful that the fire spread instantly, turning the entire scene into a burning nightmare before anyone could react. Witnesses were left stunned as the blaze engulfed both vehicles in moments. Early reports suggest the driver may have fallen asleep at the wheel, a split-second mistake with devastating consequences. It's a harsh reminder that fatigue can be just as deadly as any mechanical failure. One brief lapse and everything can go up in flames. A dump truck cruises down the freeway with its hydraulic bed still raised. Nobody notices until it slams straight into an overhead road sign. Metal twists, the sign bends, and traffic comes to a crawl. One simple check before driving could have prevented all that damage. In Poland, a windmill spins wildly out of control after its brake system fails during powerful winds. With no way to slow the blades, the turbine overheats, starts smoking, and then violently explodes, sending debris flying across the field. Moments later, the entire tower buckles and collapses to the ground. A brutal reminder of why wind turbine brakes must be inspected long before storms roll in. A dump truck rolls onto a flimsy makeshift bridge, and the moment its weight hits the center, the whole thing snaps like matchsticks. The truck drops sideways, proving once again that shortcuts and heavy loads never mix. At a busy harbor, a towering crane suddenly loses balance and tips straight into the water, creating a massive splash that drenches everything nearby. One slip, one shift, and thousands of pounds of steel go under in seconds. While a man works on the excavator's hydraulics from a safe spot, the system suddenly fails. Without warning, the entire arm and bucket crash straight down under their own weight. No one is close, but the message is loud and clear. Hydraulic failures don't give second chances. A worker is underneath a raised dump truck bed checking the hydraulics when the system suddenly fails. The massive truck body drops in an instant, nearly crushing him, but he rolls out just in time. A split second slower, and this would have been fatal. A truck is reversing in a tight spot when the driver misjudges the distance and clips an electricity pole. The pole snaps, tipping sideways and crashing right onto the hood of a parked car. One small mistake and a very expensive repair bill. A worker is refitting a truck tire after repairing a puncture when the unexpected happens. The tire suddenly explodes with massive force. The blast throws debris across the area and sends the worker stumbling back. A split-second reminder of why tire inflation zones must never be taken lightly. In this workshop, a welder is standing on an old gas cylinder like it's a step stool, completely unaware he's basically perched on a pressurized grenade. He keeps welding away, sparks raining down, and nobody stops him. But the moment those sparks hit the vapors inside that cylinder, boom, the cylinder blasts like a rocket, launching itself and the welder straight into the air. One split-second mistake, and the whole shop watches a man in a gas cylinder take flight. After the crew finished dismantling the formwork, everything looked calm for a moment, until the entire scaffolding suddenly shifted. With no support left in the right place, the structure leaned, then completely folded sideways in a violent chain reaction. Metal poles and platforms crashed down like a collapsing deck of cards. Workers immediately backed off as the whole frame hit the ground, proving once again that one loose connection during formwork removal is all it takes for a full-scale collapse. An excavator operator tried to unload a concrete pipe by simply pushing it off the flatbed. Bad idea. The pipe hit the ground and instantly shattered into pieces, sending debris everywhere. That's what happens when shortcuts replace proper unloading. A container truck tried backing up after its trailer edge got hooked on a gas pump roof. Instead of freeing itself, the entire structure gave way, collapsing like a house of cards. One wrong move and the whole roof came down. In Brazil, a truck wheel suddenly came loose and shot across the road like a missile, missing a pedestrian by inches. One split second either way, and this could have ended very differently. At Neoenergia's substation in Brasilia, an electrical short circuit turned the night sky into a full-on fireworks show. Massive arcs, blinding flashes, and a roar that sent half the neighborhood running to their windows. It looked terrifying, but amazingly, no one was hurt. A reminder that high-voltage gear doesn't give second chances. One fault, and the whole grid lights up. On the morning of July 10, 2025, workers in Tashkent were pressure testing a pipeline when things went way past the limit. The pipe gave out instantly, and a massive fountain of water blasted straight into the sky like a geyser in the middle of the capital. It looked dramatic, but it all came down to one thing: never push a system harder than it's built to handle. The steel coil chose the perfect moment to misbehave, slipping off a moving flatbed and rolling straight toward a motorcyclist. The rider ditched the bike at the last second and escaped like a full-blown action hero. One more second, and this could have ended very differently. This demolition crew thought they had everything under control until the chimney started leaning the wrong way. You can hear the panic kick in as people start shouting, "Wrong way! Wrong way!" But at that point, gravity had already made the decision. The entire chimney tips across the site and slams straight onto the railroad tracks like it had a personal grudge against public transportation. Dust everywhere, workers frozen, and one guy quietly realizing he's about to file the most awkward incident report of his career. And yeah, no trains rolling through here for a while. One thing's crystal clear: whoever planned that demo definitely isn't getting hired for the next one. This is why gas cylinders should never be stored indoors. In the video, everything looks normal until one overheated cylinder suddenly ruptures and explodes, blasting flames and debris across the room. Workers run for cover as the shockwave rattles the entire area. All it took was one cylinder trapped in a hot, unventilated space to turn the place into a danger zone. Proper storage outside could have prevented the whole thing. A mechanic tries to lash down a tilted truck cab to a pickup, thinking he's got everything under control until the unsecured cab hydraulics suddenly give way. The whole cab comes crashing down with zero warning, missing him by inches. This is exactly why you never work beside or beneath a raised cab unless the factory lockout pin or prop rod is fully engaged, and why everyone else should stay far outside the swing and crush zone. One mistake, one shortcut, and that cab becomes a guillotine. Unsecured steel coils and sudden braking don't mix. The flatbed slows down, the coils surge forward, and the entire cabin gets crushed in one brutal hit. One slip in securing and momentum does the rest. This is why you don't overload the crane. One overloaded lift, the boom starts dipping forward, then the whole crane loses balance, tips straight down, and finally rolls sideways like it never stood a chance. A perfect reminder: if the numbers don't add up, gravity will do the math for you. A man driving a small van packed with fireworks suddenly hears a sharp pop, a small blast from inside the cargo. He slams the brakes, jumps out, and before he can even look back, serial explosions start firing off behind him. Fireworks shoot, crackle, and boom from inside the van like an accidental festival. All he can do now is run for safety and watch helplessly as his entire load turns into a full-blown light show he definitely didn't plan. A forklift driver rushing through the warehouse grazes a stacked pallet tower with the side of his mast. Just a tiny tap, but that's all it takes. The entire stack wobbles, then comes crashing down like dominoes, exploding into a cloud of boxes and debris. The driver instantly realizes what's about to happen and sprints for his life, barely escaping the avalanche he accidentally triggered. A worn-out turbine suddenly hit an overspeed fault, and that was enough to turn the whole generator into a fireball. Flames shot out of the housing as workers scrambled for safety, watching the aging machine burn from the inside out. A quick reminder: when equipment reaches the end of its service life, it doesn't warn you twice. A worker stood on a raised structure when it suddenly collapsed, sending him crashing down. Another worker sitting below spotted it just in time and sprinted out of the danger zone. A split-second reaction saved him. A worker tried unloading fish from a container but completely missed lining it up with the conveyor belt. The moment he opened the hatch, the entire load dumped straight onto the ground instead, flooding the floor with fish as everyone nearby scrambled to react. An excavator operator was trying to demolish an old building, expecting it to fall neatly into the work zone, but the structure had other plans. Instead of collapsing inward, the entire building tipped the wrong way and crashed straight onto a busy road, sending debris everywhere and throwing traffic into instant chaos. Miraculously, no one was struck, but it was a split-second reminder that demolition without precise planning can turn a work site into mayhem in an instant. A crane was lifting a car from a ditch when one strap suddenly snapped, sending the car crashing right back down. Workers jumped back in surprise, proof that one bad strap can ruin the entire lift in seconds. City workers in China were carrying out routine maintenance when one wrong spark ignited trapped sewer vapors underground. In an instant, the quiet street turned into a disaster zone. A huge section of the road erupted upward, then collapsed like an earthquake ripped through it. Workers and pedestrians sprinted for safety as debris rained down and the ground kept shifting. A brutal reminder that sewer gases are invisible until the moment they decide to explode, and by then it's already way too late. A worker leans in to adjust a rolling mill when a hot steel bar suddenly cobbles and launches straight out, striking him with brutal force. He drops instantly right in the danger zone, but his coworker, likely the supervisor, doesn't hesitate. He sprints back into the heat, grabs the injured worker by the arms, and drags him out before the next bar shoots through. A split-second rescue that probably saved his life. At a metal factory in Russia, a worker was operating a lathe when his clothing got caught in the spinning shaft. In seconds, the machine pulled him in before anyone nearby could react. Incidents like this are exactly why loose clothing, unsecured sleeves, and unguarded rotating parts are some of the most lethal hazards in industrial environments. Proper guarding, emergency stops, and strict lockout procedures aren't optional. They're the only thing standing between a routine job and a tragedy. A worker walked too close to a running conveyor when his leg suddenly got caught in the rollers. In an instant, the belt pulled him in, showing just how fast these machines can trap anyone. With no guards and no lockout, he never had a chance to react. This is exactly why conveyors must be shut down, locked out, and fully guarded before anyone goes near them. A panicked truck driver learned the hardest lesson in seconds. As he tried to stop his rolling truck, the failed wheel chock let the vehicle lurch backward, pinning him before he could get out of the way. No gore, no details, just a brutal reminder that once a heavy vehicle starts moving, human strength means nothing. Always secure your wheels, verify your chocks, and never put yourself in the path of a moving truck.